Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our CommBeBiz webinar on social innovation in the bioeconomy. My name is Sylvia SCHREIBER. I'm a member of the CommBeBiz consortium, and I will navigate you through this session. Wanted to introduce, yes, I welcome very much our keynote speaker, Louise Pulford. She's from London, director of the Social Innovation Exchange Initiative, abbreviated SIX. Then we have panelist one, it's Stéphane Vincent from Ethiquable, CEO and sales manager from Belgium and responsible for all the 3 Benelux countries. And last but not least, hello Miguel FARIA is from Portugal, from the Green Smokers Alliance. And we will soon hear what is behind all these our three guests. Very welcome to you. I start with Louise Pulford. Hello, Louise. Louise has been in the innovation field since long, and she's now working as Director of Social Innovation Exchange, SIX. So what is that? SIX is a huge network worldwide. It supports social innovators in learning, connecting, and exchanging. SIX works with governments, with foundations, non-government organizations, and large institutions contributing to the building of supportive environments for the social innovators who join the network. And SIX connects through global nodes to find funding or the best examples for solution. SIX is an initiative based in London, and the director Louise Pulford is with us, and I'm happy to hear her keynote speech. Louise, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia, and it's a joy to be part of such high technology working well. I was asked by Sylvia and her colleagues at the CommBeBiz project to go to Dublin to their annual conference and give a presentation on social innovation. And when I received the invitation to do so, I had to write back to explain to them that I didn't know anything about the bioeconomy. In fact, I wasn't quite so clear what the bioeconomy was, and I certainly didn't understand why they were inviting me to come and talk about social innovation. Having spent a day in Dublin, I'm much more clued up and aware of the value that social innovation can add as a method and a way of working to the social issues and the challenges that we see in the bioeconomy today. And there are so many. Now I start to look examples of innovative practice within forestry, within marine, within food, within biotech areas. And so I'm looking forward over the next months to see how social innovation can combine with the bioeconomy and how SIX and CommBeBiz can combine to do more work together to really make some impactful social change. To start with, though, I will give the presentation that Sylvia asked me to give in Dublin. One of my reflections of coming back was that it was such a joy to give a presentation about social innovation to people who don't talk about social innovation every day. This was new as a topic, it was interesting to them, and therefore has a lot more effect than talking to our own communities all of the time. So just to start very quickly, let me tell you a little bit about SIX and what we do as a network. Sylvia explained very clearly at the beginning, but just to take it up a level, our mission is to help established social innovators become better innovators by connecting to them, to their peers. So that means established social innovators could be anywhere. They could be in big organizations, they could be in governments, they could be individuals running their own projects, social enterprises, community organizations. What we mean by a social innovator is anybody that is trying to push the boundaries, do something different, to create social change. By definition, it's often hard. You're often quite lonely, and we really believe being connected to your peers will enable you to do a better job at whatever you're trying to do in whichever organisation you work in, big or small. So we work, just getting the hang of this presentation. We work all over the world, across 6 continents, running events, convening meetings, synthesizing and curating knowledge, doing anything we can through our network, through our community, to make the life of a social innovator easier, to reduce the number of steps they have to take. And this diagram shows the kind of partners that we work with. So foundations, big NGOs, universities, and the kind of topics that we talk about. They are all directed from the network. So how do you build ecosystems for innovation? How do you create more jobs for young people? How do you deal with an aging society? How do you scale innovations? And if I want you to remember just a few things about the way SCHREIBER works as a network, the first would be that SCHREIBER is about action. So we're not just interested in helping people talk to each other. We want people to talk to each other in order to change the way they work. It has to be focused on action. We don't just want to facilitate a talking shop. The other value of SCHREIBER and the way we function as a network is that it's peer-to-peer. We help people at the same level find their peers. We help people who think in a particular way, that try to do things that are different in a particular way, find their peers. This is not about hierarchy in an organization. It's not about the country you work in. It's not about your age. It's about the mindset that you have of doing something different. So being peer-to-peer is extremely important for us. We don't believe there are a set of experts that can come in and tell you how to do your work better. We believe your peers are the people that you need to engage with. And finally, most importantly, SCHREIBER is about people. As I said at the beginning, it's about sharing knowledge. This work is difficult. You need to have trusted relationships that you can call up at any moment when you're struggling with convincing a government to take up your idea, or convincing someone to give you more funding, or not knowing how to deal with a grantee. It has to be about people and how they work together. And as Sylvia said at the beginning, we organize ourselves in a hive of nodes. So we talk a little bit about the bees and the trees being the big institutions, the governments, the businesses, the universities, and the bees being the innovators that flip between each of them. And as you can see, our hive of nodes collects people around theme, around function, and around place or region. So that's how we organize ourselves as a network. But back to the point of social innovation. For years, there have been innovation parks in offices, in governments, universities, innovation mayors, prizes, innovation finance tools. But recently, in the last few years, we've seen a rise in all of these traditional forms of innovation now having a social focus as well, or a focus on societal impact. So there are now social innovation parks in cities as diverse as Bilbao and Singapore. One of the first things President Obama did in 2010 when he came into office was set up a social innovation office in the White House. We have teams in governments all over the world Seoul has its first social innovation mayor, self-identified, but now very, very much recognized around the world. The extent of the prizes, social impact bonds. You can see from the slide, most of these traditional innovation tools have this social innovation angle. And with that, we have been developing, or we have developed a better understanding. Oh, is this working? We have developed a better understanding of social innovation, not just being about a crazy guy who goes and sits in his garden shed, comes up with a brilliant idea and changes the world. That there is a process to it, in the same way as there is a process to innovating in science, in medicine, in technology. And so by drawing on the typologies and by drawing on the innovation funnel type diagrams that you see in lots of other innovation practice, we've been redeveloping a model which was first developed by an organisation called the Young Foundation in the UK, 2010. We've been developing this model, which we call the spiral, which demonstrates that social innovation is indeed a practical craft, and that it is indeed a process, and that throughout the process there are different methods, tools, and support systems that can help in innovation become more than just an idea, that it can be tested and prototyped and piloted, that you can build a case of evidence for them, and that you can grow these innovations to become systemic, big changing societal impact forces. And many of you will have recognized this, but this spiral has become pretty well known in the field of social innovation, and also very well used. And all the time we're looking around the world and developing new methodologies that are helping different kinds of projects move around this spiral, move from ideas to projects of impact. How have we been involved in social innovation, many people ask, and particularly in the field and how it's grown in Europe is quite a long story. Back in 2009, 2010, the European Commission for the first time recognized social as part of their innovation strategy. The booklet that you can see on the right here, called Reinventing Europe through Social Innovation, traditionally recognized that the Commission had focused its innovation practices on technology, and it was in this booklet that the first time the word social was recognized. At 6, we had a workshop with President Barroso, and then we were asked to write a paper showing what social innovation looked like already in the European countries. So we looked at who was doing it, what it looked like in the different sectors, how it was being done, the methods and tools that were being used, different kinds of financing that was being used, and made some recommendations as to next steps and things that the Commission could do to better support innovation in the future. One of those recommendations, surprise, surprise, was that we thought we needed a network, a better community, a better platform to support innovators, connect innovators, and help innovators in Europe access information on who was doing what and how, where the newest events were, what kind of news was happening, and to, oh, I'm sorry, and access the resources and articles on social innovation. We won the first contract to run this back in 2011 and have been running the network community platform entitled Social Innovation Europe ever since. And Social Innovation Europe, as I said, is really a one-stop shop for the community of innovators in Europe. And I'm sad to say that although the website screen that I show you now has the first ever Eco-Innovation Forum in Seoul on it, that there's not nearly enough examples of innovation in the bioeconomy on there. And that's certainly something that we'll be fixing in the future, given the rich amount of innovation that's out there. Since then, the Commission have created lots of different kinds of websites in different different domains of social innovation. A big one has been digital social innovation. They since set up this DSI website and map, which we've been involved in, looking at lots of different areas that the digital world is contributing to this field. But to move on to a few examples of my favorite innovations in the bioeconomy and some quite different ways of looking at it. I've been a little hasty with my arrows. This is one example. So I think collaboration, working together, making time to learn from each other is very important in the field of social innovation. And this particular example, I think, demonstrates that very well in terms of the bioeconomy. So the Gulbenkian Foundation, who are one of the largest foundations in Portugal, but also have an office in the UK, have a strategy of work around the oceans. And so using the power that they have as a convener, so thinking about foundation role in a different way, using the power they have as a convener, they have set up something called the Marine Collab. And they're interested in how marine collaboration can change the world. And so using their resources that they have essentially brought the time of 9 organizations of different sizes to come together, spend time together in a series of workshops, a series of collaborations, but also lab spaces where they're coming up with new ideas and working together on how to change the oceans around the world. And so the 9 organizations involved in the lab, at this stage at least, have been carefully selected for their distinctive experience, their interests, and their own networks. And they include partners including the Zoological Society of London, research institutes like the Economics Foundation in London, the Institute for European and Environmental Policy, Marine Conservation Society. So they brought together this very, very diverse group of people to try and work together to think about our oceans in a really different way. The second example I'd like to show you is another one of my favorites. This is a US-based but global community which uses technology in lots of different ways. It's called the Public Lab. They're based in New York, and their question is how to empower all people around the world to investigate environmental concerns on their own. So as you can see from this, and I would highly urge you all to go and have a look at the website of the Public Lab, they develop inexpensive DIY toolkits that you can apply for and get sent out to you. You can make them yourselves, and you can do a variety of things like testing for chemicals in your water levels, or testing levels of radiation in different ways. It's a really incredible way to make this kind of technology open and accessible and educate more and more people on the environment and enabling people to do things for themselves. And finally, back to Europe, another example that I really like, and I can't pronounce the name of this town in Sweden, but they're interested in how to tackle the food crisis and support local production at the same time. So this particular city in Sweden is quite small. There's barely 100,000 people in it, but it's taken in more Iraqi refugees than the US and Canada combined. So it's a super diverse community, and the city authority has driven through a really ambitious reform program through the power of public food procurement. The point of the project is to encourage healthy eating in schools, i.e. they're eating less meat, more organically sourced local food, therefore also supporting local food production and encouraging the growth of organic farming, whilst at the same time creating a different kind of cultural understanding and importance of community. And the Diet for a Green Planet project started in Sweden, but is now actually being spread out in different cities across Europe because of the way that it combines the economic, the social, and environmental. We believe that's something that's really unique about it, and this integrated approach is an innovative way of working. So I'm actually going to finish on the next two slides, but these are some really big questions for the field of social innovation right now. And I think they affect it whether you're working for social innovation in the bioeconomy or whether you're doing something for social innovation in any other field where we need social change. We need better skills. Not that many people are able to work in this quite complicated way. There's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of risk available trying to do something different. And you need to really quite often think out the box. You need to turn things on their head and think in a different way. And that, as I said at the beginning, is not just because you're a crazy kind of person, but there are skills that enable more people to do it. We don't have enough stories of brilliant innovations that work and numbers to prove why they do work, and that links to having better ability to measure these things. We need better ways to fund these things. We need to think creatively in a time of less resource and reduce finances from the same places that we usually go to. So we need to think of new creative funding mechanisms and tools. Needs to be better policy uptake. But I think the most important one that I'd like to leave you with is there needs to be better knowledge of learning, of who's doing what and how. And we need to interrogate projects so that we understand why they work in particular places and how they can be replicated. So Sylvia, I think I'll probably leave it there, if that's okay.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Louisa. Was a very interesting introduction to your activity and to the social innovation initiative. It gave us really a tour d'horizon, a broad overview. Thank you very much for listening to all our participants. I think I can go on now to our first panelist. It is Stéphane Vincent, French-speaking, a member of the social innovation community. He's there at Ethiquable. So Ethiquable is a word fusion of ethic and able to do ethics in a practical sense. And just to introduce Stéphane, he's living in Belgium, in the southwest, in the city of Charleroi. Stéphane is 43 years old, and he is actually a social economist by training and a retail manager by professional formation before he joined Ethiquable. He will tell us more what is behind this etiquette. It is a chain working in France, but also in the Benelux countries, a social economy company which is specialized in organic and fair trade food products. So when you go to Belgian supermarkets, you see this brand. You can buy chocolate, cacao, coffee, you name it. And Stéphane, you will tell us what else more and in which kind of shops we can buy these products. Ethiquable Benelux is working with 40 cooperatives of producers, farm producers in 20 different countries in Central and South America, Africa, and in Asia. So far, my introduction, and I would like to start the interview with Stephen now. My first question, Stephen, is who brought Ethiquable to Belgium?
Thank you, Sylvia. So we were two, it was in 2009, and I was already working on fair trade, but I wanted to do something else. And I heard someone was also working on a project. I didn't know him, I just knew his name. I Googled his name, I found his email, and I sent him an invitation to join, to talk about my vision on fair trade. And so it was in begin 2009, and we met in a cafe in Belgium. And we found that we were very complementary. So he's agronomist, so he would work on products, on logistics, and I was more the commercial man, and so that's how it started in 2009.
Okay, so you were a former Oxfam manager. There you went also in the, or had first experiences with fair trade products and organic products. But what is then the basic idea now behind Ethiquable?
So we are a social economy cooperative with a social goal, and our goal is to maintain, to support, to develop small farming. And how do we do that? So we want to create added value for the cooperatives of producer we are working with by offering good quality, fair trade and organic products at an affordable price for the consumer. So if the price is interesting for the consumer, he will buy more of our products, and so we can create large volumes, sales volumes, and if we create large sales volumes, we can have a big development at the level of our small producers. So simple it is.
Okay, so I know a bit Ethiquable from France, I know it from Benelux, it's also working in Scandinavia. What is different in each country?
Well, of course we are working on different markets, and every market is different because of its tastes, because of its food culture. But what we do is very simple. In Belgium we are used to that because we are working with lots of different languages, lots of different cultures. So it's very simple. Just listen to your customer, try to understand what he wants, and then you have to create interesting solutions for him.
Are there products you can't buy in Belgium, but you can get them in Scandinavia? Is there a difference in the product portfolio?
Yeah, we try to sell all the products everywhere, but the reality is that, for example, chocolate is a product which is popular everywhere. But for example, we have fruit desserts, and that's more popular in France than in the Scandinavian countries, for example. So each market is different.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and how high is your turnover, and what do the producers get?
Yeah, so it's going well for the moment. So we started in 2009 with a turnover of 500,000 euro, and last year we ended with 3.2 million euro. So it's a growth of 30% in comparison with 2014. And so it's what we do is working with fair trade. So fair trade means a fair price, but our idea is to go further than the minimum fair trade price, because we think that if you want to create development at the level of the small producer, you have to give more than the minimum fair trade price. And we see, for example, I give here the example of cocoa prices. Today it's not more the reality, but at the moment that the fair trade price was $2,000, we paid twice as the minimum price in order to create real development. That's the first point is so to give a fair price to the producer, but also we give 15% of our benefits back to different projects of our producers.
And typical products is cacao, powder, chocolate, coffee, fruit desserts. What else? Cereals?
Yeah. Cereals, yeah, rice, quinoa, spices, tea, of course. Yeah, today we have more than 100 different products.
Oh, okay. And coming to the future, what is the next big thing?
Yeah, it's because we noticed as we were tasting our products in the shops, lots of European consumer came to us and say, okay, very good what you're doing with producers in the south, but don't you see that our producer here in Europe also have problems, the milk crisis? And that's one point. At the other end, we were in contact with lots of producers, European producers, who were saying, very good what you're doing, but we also have interesting product and we also have difficulties. And so we decided to stop, to make an opposition between a southern producer and northern producer and have a sort of inclusive approach of small producers all over the world. They have the same goals, they have the same problems, and so now we are developing fair trade and organic European products.
Mm-hmm. Could you tell us an example what such a product could be?
Yeah, we are working, for example, I see Miguel from Portugal. We are developing a salt from Algarve, which is typical products from Algarve, maintaining biodiversity, maintaining small producer. We are also developing different olive products from Greece, also product from Belgium, of course, different products from France, lentils, for example, specific pasta from Sicilia, cooperative of producers who are fighting against the mafia. So all our projects do always have environmental approach and a social approach. So here, for example, in Sicilia, a social point of view is fighting against mafia, and we are also maintaining specific species of how do you call it to make bread? Oak? No,
Yes.
I don't know it in English, but a specific plants.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Right.
so the criteria to become a member of your label, is it a social purpose and an environmental purpose? Is it also a size, that it should not exceed a specific side of the firm?
It's not really. Yeah, most of our producers in the south are working on a maximum 5 hectares, but it's not really the size that matters. It's the sort of company. We are only working with cooperatives, so cooperatives of workers, of producers. That's for us very important, that you have a sort of democratic form of company.
So it's also the way to do economy. Yes.
That's what I think, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we come to an end with the presentation and the interview of Stéphane Vincent from Ethiquable Benelux. Here you have on the slide his details if you want to contact Stéphane.
Certainly, thank you.
And yes, thank you very much, Stéphane. I ask Louise now. I don't know if you knew Ethiquable, if it's purchasable in UK, and what would you recommend to sustain more in Europe to this initiative?
Thanks, Stéphane, for your presentation. And no, I'm not so familiar with Ethiquable. I wonder if I might go off-piste a little and perhaps just ask you a question, because I'm not sure there's anything I can particularly recommend, but I wonder whether I can ask you, I mean, do you, two parts of the question, do you see yourself as innovative? Do you identify with the language of innovation and social innovation when you're doing your work? I ask you that because I think sometimes the field and how we talk about social innovation as a concept seems quite disconnected to the people who are actually doing really brilliant work and that are actually just every day making a difference to society. So my first question is do you identify and see yourself as a social innovator? And my second more would actually be, what advice do you have to other projects who are looking to develop some kind of model where they can spread into another country? You seem to have done it very well already.
Yeah, I don't know. The first question, yes, we did. This is we have two goals in our cooperative. The one is to be the best in fair trade, and I don't know if it's so in other countries, but in the countries where we are working, fair trade has sometimes a negative, old-fashioned, and we try to present our product as a good product, a quality product, a tasty product, a fancy product, so that the consumer can find it. The consumer choose for a product first because he find the product nice. It's a nice product to eat, and then okay, it's organic. That's nice. Okay, it's fair trade. That's maybe a second to third step. So that's innovative. From my point of view, fair trade, and we also try to have another sort of company. So we are a cooperative of workers. Of course, me and my business partner, we created Ethiquable, but today all employees of Ethiquable are also shareholder of the company, and so we try to have a participative leadership of our company. And that's also, from my point of view, a social innovation. Then your second question was what do I suggest?
Yeah, what kind of advice would you give to other organizations that are interested in getting into other countries? And I say it's interesting with Miguel that we'll talk about later. We were involved in a project.
That's very interesting because we made mistakes. I think you have, from the beginning, you have to think about your objective. If you want to make something in Belgium and you're sure you are going to stay in Belgium, okay, think about how Belgium are doing and so forth. But if you want to do something European, from the beginning you have to think as a European and not saying, okay, I'm doing something in Belgium and then I'm going to try to adapt it in other countries. And that's from my point of view, a mistake. But because if you, for example, the language, it's difficult, for example, today to Ethiquable in French, it's very easy and it tells some things to someone who speaks French, but for other people, Ethiquable, it doesn't mean anything, and that's we have to fight of to promote the name of our company, which is, and that's one of the mistakes we did from the beginning, I think. Voilà.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very interesting what you tell us, and I learn social innovation is not only selling fair products, it's also the way you do it, the way you work with there, and what's the social story behind. Thank you very much, Stephen, for joining us. We are going on to the Green Smokers Alliance and to Miguel FARIA from Portugal. Very welcome and hello, Miguel.
Hello, Sylvia.
Hello. So, Miguel, you are in Portugal. You're 36-year-old, but you told us that you have been living in many, many other countries, in Chile and US, in UK, and you also have a sales background, but you did a lot of other things. You are a hiking guide, you're interested in nature, in environment, and you have been working as a social worker in recovering centers for addicts. So it's actually natural that you came to an environmental movement where you can combine all these elements, and you founded together with others Portugal Seam Beates, which means Portugal without cigarette butts. This is a really a story, a funny story to start with. You have been an environmental movement dedicated to investigate, promoting awareness, organizing cigarette butts collection, and give lectures in schools. Then you started to develop a business model, and the business is dedicated or meant to go towards recycled products from the butts, and later or recently you did the first step, you created the global platform Green Smokers Alliance.
Yes.
So far my introduction. I hope I could summarize this correctly. So my first question, now we start with the interview. How did you get the idea, Miguel?
Well, basically, as a hiking guide, I was walking a lot, both in nature and in urban areas. And the thing that I would that I would encounter the most in the floor, especially in urban areas and later on also in the middle of nature, was cigarette butts. And eventually I decided to do something about it, and I put a post on Facebook. And a lot of people decided to join in order to produce a small documentary to raise awareness, Well, after that, we started meeting periodically, and to see what we could do about this big issue, right? And what solutions were out there in the world. And as Stefan said, one of the things we decided since the beginning was that what we would create would have to be easily implemented anywhere else in the world. That has been with us since the beginning. So after we did a small documentary and organized some collects and got in touch with the community to see what their reaction was, we decided that we really needed to do something about it, right? And so we understood that there were 11 million cigarettes being produced every minute in the world, that in Portugal, 7,000 cigarette butts are thrown into the floor every minute, and that the cigarette butt, it's the most littered item in the whole world. So it's a big problem, a big issue. After that, we decided that we had to have a movement raised. Many people gathered. And it didn't take long until we understand that we needed people working on it full time. And so from a movement, we created an association, and later on, when we realized that there was a big business related to cigarette butts, we understood that we had to create a business, right? And what we do is we divided our work into 4 major steps, right? The first step is communication, awareness, and education. There's a lot to be done about this situation, because it looks that it's simple, but it's not that simple, because our target are smokers, right? And the smokers have a collective awareness. Really, it's a heavy one, right? They're confronted with smoking kills every day, with the smoking affects other people around you. You will die from it. So they don't want to hear a lot more about cigarettes, right? So what we figured out was that if we invited smokers to become responsible smokers by putting their cigarette butt into a selective collective system, then we would be approaching them in a way that they would approach us, right? And that would be the easy way to shift awareness. After communication. After that, we implement selective collecting systems in the cities and near the beaches and near the parks, schools, municipalities, and we educate people to put those cigarette butts in the right place. Why? Because once they are decontaminated, they can be transformed into other products. What we are struggling right now is that we know it is possible to decontaminate the cigarette butt. We know that it's possible to recycle the cigarette butt, but we don't have the necessary funds to develop the patents, which is something we would like to develop at least as a European scale, so that every time someone comes to us through the Green Smokers Alliance platform, like Spain did, Italy did, we can provide them with the model, which is fairly easy to implement with the locals around, but we don't, but we can't supply with the patents to make the whole process work. So that's where we,
yes. May I ask a question, Miguel? When you say patents are pending and you decided to recycle the butts into a product, could you give us an example what kind of product this could be?
Yes, there are two products which are the ones we're more focused on. One is pellets. You know pellets, fire lighters. We can transform them into fire lighters. It's a very it's a good opportunity, right? But we will be burning, right? So that's not our first choice, because you do reduce the footprint in a way, but it's not the most advantageous way in terms of environment and humans, right? So the one we're really looking for is that when we decontaminate the cigarette butt, we can use it in a plastic compound, and with that plastic compound, you can build benches for parks, sidewalks for beaches, and in that way you're reinforcing the value of that recycled plastic has already, right? You're doing that. Well, basically, when we get to that point where we're able to transform and create a marketable product, we're creating a whole new business out of something that's in most parts of the world, people don't even pay attention to it.
That's right. And could it be a profit, or will it stay a not-for-profit movement?
Well, this is our belief, because it's how our experience for the last 4 years is that there will be always a place for a movement, there will always be a place for an association, but the truth is that we need the money in order to have an impact, both environmental, both social. If we want to get to the point where Stefan is, that at the end of the year he's able to deliver 15% of his profit, we have to make money in order to make it a sustainable business that we can then invest in everyone that really needs the money, right? And that's our view. I'll give you an example. We're working with the European Blue Flag. I don't know if you ever heard about it. They're on the beach.
Tell us.
Right?
Tell us.
Basically, they set the standards of a clean beach, right? In all over Europe. So we're making a huge campaign here in Portugal where we'll install selective collecting systems throughout the beaches of Portugal. Not all of them, because we have 300, but let's start with 20 or 30, right? The cigarette butts collected by those beaches will be bought by a brand that I can't tell the name right now, but they will be bought. So the more they collect, the more money they make, because they will be bought, and that money will be given to local associations and NGOs that need the money to sustain to help the people and all that. In that way, we're having both an environmental impact and a social impact. But this is only possible because in some way the Green Smokers Alliance here in Portugal got into a point where it's sustainable. Otherwise, it will not be possible to do this. And we would always depend on fundings and subsidies in order to create a business that later on would
Yes.
social impact.
And so the Green Smoker Alliance is a vehicle for you to grow and to spread your business to other local initiatives?
Well, I really relate to the business awareness that Stefan shared with us a while ago. What we did, we were invited by the transition program to go to Brussels and present our project, and it was a beautiful experience for me, very, very beautiful. And what we realized is that in what comes to cigarette butts, the problem and the reality is pretty much the same all over the world. So we decided to develop a business model with 4 steps that can be easily implemented anywhere in the world. All you have to do is you go and look for the local suppliers, and once you look for the local suppliers, you develop a business in the same way that, for instance, in Europe, if we're able to develop the system here and the steps are an easy map guide to follow in any other country in Europe, then it makes sense to develop and invest in European patents and not local patents for Portugal and then another local patents for Italy and then another local patents. That would be a waste of resources and money. And so, yeah, basically with the Green Smokers Alliance platform, we are embracing everyone that it's involved somehow in this big issue of cigarette butts, and help them to develop step by step a sustainable model, yes, but only once you have a sustainable model implemented, then you can go to the social side of it. It's like the triple bottom line business model. It's very clear that if you have an impact on environment, an impact on social, and you've developed jobs and new products, that your company will be successful in the times to come.
And is the Green Smokers Alliance then a kind of a franchise model? You sell or you license out this brand?
Well, eventually, at this point where we're standing right now, we are a consulting agency. If we are that, meaning that we got some contacts from Italy and some contacts from Spain. And all we're doing with them is that, listen, we have a 4-step business model to go global. I think you can implement it there. These are the steps for every single stage. Where we can, I don't know if we will give all the support needed throughout all the process, because we don't know if they can come up with another brilliant solution that we haven't figured out yet. So we will be working as a network. What would be really, really interesting, like I said before, is that we can all create a similar model all over Europe so that we can use the same patents, so that we can make a valuable business plan that is scalable throughout the whole community. That's where we're standing right now.
Okay. Very good idea. Thank you very much, Miguel. Here also you have, if you want to join and if you have some cigarette butts to reuse and to recycle, take contact with Miguel. Thank you very much. for the Portugal Seam Beates, Europe Seam Beates, Europe without cigarette butts. I would
Yes,
baptize this. Thank you.
you're
Louise,
welcome.
over to you. What would you recommend to Miguel how to step up and how to speed up his idea? You've lost Stefan? No? He's back again? Okay, Louisa.
Sure. I wonder also whether I could go off track a little. So Miguel, I don't know if we met, but I was also at Transition event in Brussels. And I wonder whether I could actually ask you a question around where you go to look for support. So for people who are listening who don't know, Transition was a European Commission funded project. We were part of a consortium that ran it to incubate and spread innovations around Europe. And what we did was we looked at the different methodologies that were available to support innovations to grow in particular countries, but also methodologies that were available to help innovations grow in other places as well, so to spread and scale across borders. And the Green Smokers Alliance was one of the Portuguese projects. And so I'm interested, Miguel, for you in, like, where do you go to find the kind of support that you need in terms of developing the right business model to create your triple bottom line?
Thank you,
Do you feel
Louise.
that networks are available?
Well, basically, by having a sustainable project, right, we had to create a service, right? And what we did was that we developed collecting systems, and we sell those collecting systems. And after that, we are able to keep all the cigarette butts that can later on be decontaminated and transformed. So we generate our funds, right? But they're not enough in order to develop, in order to pay the expenses of developing patents. And approaching the tobacco industries, it's not very simple. Although it would seem to be very obvious, but it's not very simple. Where I would go from here was that the European community would develop a euro tax, right? That would be charged by the tobacco industries when they sell the cigarettes. And that tax would be the amount of funds necessary to support all the work we're doing. This is because we have a law here in Portugal. I'm not very sure if it's the same all over the Europe. But we have a law that it's kind of a new law that it says that once you buy something, you're responsible for 50% of it. Of the trash of it, right? Of what is left, and the manufacturer is responsible for another 50%. Being said, in what comes to cigarette butts, 50% of that responsibility it's from the tobacco industries. So they should be. And since the only way you have to charge the smoker for that 50% responsibility is at the moment they buy the cigarette box. This would be an eco tax charged, and I'm pretty sure that the amount of money that would be able to come up from that euro tax would be more than enough to fund everything we need to implement a European our business throughout the whole Europe.
It's really interesting, I think, the kind of innovative business model approach, and I also think one of the things that we see a lot in social innovation is even if the person who's developed the product, like you, have developed the innovative business model. As you say, the tobacco industries might not be quite ready to change their mindset and think in a different way, because that also requires them to be innovative. It requires them to think differently. And so I think half of the challenge when creating new business models is not just the people that are trying to create it, it's the institutions that would be supporting it. They also need to think differently, and there's a whole other, I think, piece of work maybe that people don't realize that needs to be done around helping the support systems be open to doing things in new ways. It's not just one-sided, and I find sometimes that all the pressure gets put on the entrepreneur, and actually we need to add pressure at the other end of the system simultaneously.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Listen, if I had the resources, I would go very, very often to Brussels in order to invest in a network, in order to meet more people, explain what's going on, challenge to what can be done, and eventually to find the right people that are responsible for European lawmaking. Okay, it is also, but I don't have the resources to do it. So I believe that in time I will get there. Not only me, but other people from Europe. The transition program gave us the opportunity, for instance, like for something very, very nice that it's happening in Italy. A group of entrepreneurs told their supervisor that they wanted to do something about cigarette butts, and the supervisor told him, listen, I was in Brussels 2 weeks ago, here's the contact of Miguel, talk to him, let's see what and we've been meeting via Skype every week, working on the four-step business model and see where we can go from then. And what's going on is that in 4 weeks we're building a business plan for the place they are, which is Milan, and they will run for a financing of 50,000 euros, which will enable them to work on the project for a long time, right? And so this is really, really, really good.
Yeah. Interesting. So there should be a kind of life cycle thinking also for the cigarette industry, or an end of life thinking, what you do with the car recycling or what you do with household devices. There is really an EU regulation that included in the price for the good, you have to set aside as a producer a certain amount where then the recycling and the evacuation and the littering can be paid off. And I think this would be something for the cigarette industry to think about. So
Yes.
I will note it, and a good idea to to make the business sustainable. Thank you very much, Louise. Are there any other questions for the moment? No, I also ask the participants who are sitting somewhere out there and who have the opportunity not to click in via webcam, but to click in written procedure in our chatting box. If there are any question you have to talk to or to ask our social innovators who are now present, or to Louise as an organizer of the Big Exchange Network, please do it now.
Hi Sylvia, we had a question from Riri, who was just asking Miguel if he's considered crowdfunding as one of his funding support options, and if he has or has not, then why?
Miguel.
Yes, we've considered crowdfunding, but the reality of crowdfunding here in Portugal is that it can be done, but not for the amounts of money we're talking about. We really need larger entities and the companies to invest not only on the patent, right, to decontaminate or create new products out of cigarette butts, but also building a factory and developing the whole everything around the cigarette butts when we think in terms of a sustainable cycle, right? And we're talking about large investments.
Also, another question. Ed, did you receive another one?
No, I think it was just the one. I think, Sylvia.
Yes, you had. I have a question to Stephen also. Stephen, do you also think in terms of life cycles? What do you do with organic byproducts from your products? Is there also a thought to do a recycling product or to do something with this?
Yes, of course. We did a study product per product, and we noticed so on agricultural process we are doing good. On transport we are also doing good because we are only working with boats, with ships, no planes. And the biggest impact on the environment is the packaging. So we worked a lot. For example, we took off the aluminium in our coffee packaging. We took off the needle on a tea bag. Before we had around the tea bag a plastic. We took it off, and we are only working now with recyclable paper, vegetable inks, those sort of, but it's a constant process, doing better each time, but it's not easy because we are always in conflict between environment and social, because we decided if we want to create development at the level of the small producer, we have to make that they transform themselves their products. Not only, for example, not only they don't have to sell us only a potato, but they have to sell us chips. So they have to transform themselves the potato into chips, so they can create added value. But that's a problem because at some place the level of technology is not as high as here in Europe, but we decided as environment and social are in conflict, we always give the priority to social, because we think that the benefit at social point of view is bigger than the negative point of view on environmental point, if you see what I'm trying to say. So yes, but we are always challenged by the consumer about environmental, because we are all products are coming from far away, so we always need to tell them and to convince them that we can products are coming from far away, but in the best environmental way possible. That's what we are trying to do.
To reconcile the ecological footprint with the social footprint, so to say. This is actually a challenge, I think, for all the social innovators, and I think we come to an end with our session. I have to thank all three of you. You were fantastic. Thank you very much. I hope not I learned a lot, also our participants learned a lot, and maybe you will start an exchange among you, or when you have questions to our CommBeBiz community, please feel free to contact me here in Brussels. We are also connected. This might be also for Miguel, but also for you, Stephen, be an information to the so-called bio-based products industry, which make from organic waste, from other substances, new products, mostly bioplastics, decomposable plastic. And if you have a question over there, address to me, and I try to bring you in contact with the right people. So far from my side, thank you very much to everybody, and let's stay in touch. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. Bye-bye.
Thank you. So
Bye.
bye-bye. I